Hello friends and family, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. My wife Melissa and I are fixing a freezer meal today called 3 cheese manicotti. Now, I like this freezer meal because you do not have to boil the manicotti noodles before you stuff them. And that makes this meal so much easier. So let's talk about what you're going to need to make 3 cheese manicotti. First, you're going to need a 24-ounce container of cottage cheese. Prairie Farm is my favorite, but you use whatever brand you like the best. Just make sure it's a 24-ounce container. You're also going to need 2 cups of shredded mozzarella. Again, the brand doesn't matter. We picked this up the other day at Meijer. But just, you're going to need 2 cups to stir into the filling, but then you're going to need another cup or 2 to put on top. So I guess total, you're going to need about 3 or 4 cups, but you're going to need 2 cups of that in your filling. You also need 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Yes, I use Kraft Parmesan, the green lid. There's nothing wrong with this. It's cheese, and it's very convenient. So you'll need 1/2 cup of that. You're also going to need some spices. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. You need 1 teaspoon of onion powder and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. You're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Those will just all go in together. You're also going to need 2 24-ounce jars of your favorite pasta sauce. Now, we like Rao's. I think that's how you say it. And we really like the tomato basil, but you use whatever you like best, whatever your favorite pasta sauce is. But just make sure you have 2 24-ounce jars. And then, of course, you can't make manicotti without manicotti noodles. So you're going to need the manicotti shells. And the recipe calls for an 8-ounce box, and that will work. That's about 14 shells. But, you know, I figure if I'm going to make this, I might as well get as many shells in my pan as possible. So I'm going to be able to get about 17 or 18 of these tubes in my pan today. So an 8-ounce box is all you really need for this, but if you want to fill your pan full, you may need an extra box to use part of. And you can just see that a manicotti noodle is a long cylinder-shaped noodle that's hollow, and we are going to stuff that with our cheese mixture that we're going to make. Now, that's the ingredients you're going to need, but let's talk a minute about what the equipment you're going to need. Of course, you're going to need a pan to make it in. And since we're doing a freezer meal, I'm using a disposable aluminum pan. I did not get a deep one because this is just one layer of manicotti noodles, and they're not very thick. So a thin pan will work just fine. You're also going to need to spray that with some nonstick spray. And I'm going to do that before I forget it. I always do that over my stove because...
You mean your sink?
I mean my sink. Thank you for catching that. That's why I have her behind the camera. I do that over the sink because you do get some residual spray around it. And you don't want that on your countertop, and you sure don't want it on your floor making it slick. You're also going to need a big bowl and a spoon to stir with. But you're going to need something to pipe your cheese mixture into your noodles. Now, I use a piping bag and a large open tip, but that is absolutely not necessary. All you really need is a Ziploc bag. You can just put your cheese mixture, after you've mixed it up, put it in here, zip it shut, snip off the corner, and just use it to squeeze your cheese mixture into your noodles. So you really don't need a piping bag and piping tip and all that. But this makes it easy. If you have one, use it. It makes it easy. Now, another thing, this is just a little tip. It's kind of hard to fill these. It's really hard to hold them and fill it. And I've used all kinds of things over the years to try to hold my piping bag and get it filled with this cheese mixture, or if I'm doing icing on cupcakes. Let me tell you what I have found is the easiest. I use a wide mouth canning jar. This one's a 2-quart. I just put my piping bag in there and fold the top down over the large mouth, and then I just spoon my mixture in. Makes it very easy to fill your bag, less mess. So if you're using a piping bag, well, you could even do that with your Ziploc bag. You can put that Ziploc bag down in there and fold the edge over, and it makes it much easier to fill. Okay, let's get started with making our manicotti. So the first thing we're going to do is dump in our cheeses. So we'll take our cottage cheese and just dump it in. I really like Prairie Farm because I feel like their cottage cheese is a little more moist. It's not so dry. I hate to use a brand name, but I'll just tell you, I feel like the Great Value cottage cheese is so dry, it's almost hard to swallow. Okay, in goes our mozzarella. So I really like Prairie Farm. I've also found that the Kroger brand cottage cheese is pretty moist. If I can't find Prairie Farm, I get the Kroger. I really do like it too. All right, our Parmesan's in. There go our spices and seasoning. They're all in. And now we're just going to stir that together. Actually, I should have probably used the spoon to do this, but that's okay. I used the spoon to put it into my piping bag. Now, you don't want to stir it so much that it just becomes a big glob, but you want to get it mixed up pretty good. You want to just kind of fold it over, keep folding until you can tell that it's mixed up pretty well. And then into our bag we will go. All right, let me get rid of that spatula. Actually, I'm just going to lay it right here. All right, so let's fill our bag. See how easy that is to get it down in there? Just go right down in the bag. We don't want to put it all in at once because you don't want it squirting out the top when you're trying to fill your noodles. Okay, so we'll start with that amount. Now we're going to take a little bit of our sauce, our pasta sauce, and just put it on the bottom of our pan. Let me get another spoon here. And we're just going to spread that out some. You don't need a big thick layer. You just want some on the bottom. Might need a little more than that.
So if you're not freezing it and you're just going to go ahead and make it, instructions are still the same, the directions.
Well, you know, if you're going to make it right now, you're probably going to have to boil your noodles. Because the whole thing with the noodles is that they become soft in the process of sitting in this sauce while they're in the freezer, you know.
So this
and
really
the thawing out
best
process. Yeah, this is really, if you're going to do it this way, it's best to do it as a freezer meal. All right, so you can see we have just a small layer of sauce. Now, take our bag of cheese mix, and we're just going to fill our noodles. Now, you can see here how it's coming out of there. And we're just going to put it in our noodle and squeeze. And you will have to go from both ends. And you want to fill it full. You don't want any empty. And I'll just tell you, it's a little bit of work to fill it. So you can see that one's full on that end. I'm just going to flip it around and fill it really well from this end. Can you see that? Okay, so I'll lay this down a minute so I can show you. So you can see that it's filled from this end and this end. Okay. And you don't want it squeezing out too much, but, you know, fill it full. You want it to be full there. All right, let's do another one. I promise I will not make you stay and watch me do all of these, but I just want you to see how we do it. This cheese mixture is really thick because you've got the mozzarella in there, the shredded mozzarella, and you have that parm in there, the Parmesan. And so that thickens it up quite a bit. I'm making sure it's packed down in there. Nobody wants skimpy cheese in their manicotti. All right, so we're just going to nestle those together. I'll do one more for you, and then we'll take a break here while I finish these. Now, I will tell you that, in my opinion, it is no harder to do 2 or 3 or 5 freezer meals than it is one. You're getting your stuff together anyway, so why not make a bunch of them?
If you have freezer space, I think that's a great idea.
That's right, if you have the freezer space. And it makes it so easy to get a meal on the table. You know, when our kids were home and I was cooking, freezer meals and the crock pot were my best friends. So, you know, if you're going to go to the trouble to make a freezer meal, make several. And then, you know, you don't want to have one every week, but they'll last for several months in the freezer. So, you know, take one out the day before you're going to use it, leave it sit out for a few hours, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and over the course of a couple of hours on your counter and then being in the refrigerator overnight, they'll thaw. You want them thawed completely. And then you just have to bake it for an hour. So if you're going to make this, why not make a few? All right, I'm going to finish filling my shells and we will fill the pan. And when I get it filled, we'll come back and I'll let you see how we finish it. We'll be back in just a few minutes. So this is the last one I'm filling. This will pretty much fill up our pan. And you can see that you should get about, 16 noodles filled with that amount of cheese. And I'm forcing it all out of there. You know I am. Because you know how I feel about wasting stuff. So, that pretty much fills our pan. Now, we're just going to take our sauce and pour it right over our noodles. And we may or may not use all of the second jar. I doubt we will, but we'll see.
This is what will make you not have to boil your noodles to start with.
That's right. What did I do with my spoon? There it is. So you do want it to cover your noodles, but you don't want a huge layer because you still got to put your cheese on there.
And you'll do that after it's frozen.
No.
Take it back out or before you freeze it?
No, I will put my cheese on it, and we will put that in the freezer, uncovered. Because if I put my lid on it while it's covered,
put your lid on it while it's covered.
I mean, put my lid on it while it's freezing, then the cheese will all stick to the lid. And I don't want that cheese stuck to the lid. So I will put it in the freezer, uncovered, let it freeze solid overnight. Then tomorrow morning, I will put the lid on it.
Wow, it looks delicious.
And it used almost 2 jars. I have just maybe a couple of inches left in the bottom.
It smells so good.
Oh, and that brings me to something else. You know, you're going to have a little sauce left. You may need more than what's left in here, because the way to serve this, or the way we serve it, is on a bed of spaghetti. We like angel hair pasta best, but you can use whatever spaghetti you like. Just boil your spaghetti, put some on the plate, put a little pasta sauce on top of it, and then put 2 or 3 of these on top of your spaghetti. 2 is an okay serving. 3 of them is a really good serving. So just put those over your spaghetti and you've got a good meal. We always serve it with some bread and a salad. If you're going to have Italian, you have to have a salad, right? And you certainly have to have bread.
For some reason, we think so anyway.
Yeah. Well, if you go to an Italian restaurant, you're going to get bread and salad with your meal. So that's what we do. So I'm using, I don't know, probably 1.5 cups, 2 cups of cheese right on top here. And I will try to spread that out a little bit and flatten it down so that I can get my lid on there after it's frozen. Now, this is going into the freezer just like that. But tomorrow morning, when it's frozen really well, we will take it out of the freezer and cover it with this lid. Now, on the lid, I've just written Manicotti, so we'll know what it is. I put down thaw completely because we want it thawed. What did you start to say?
I said don't shake the lid.
Oh, sorry. And then I've just got the directions on there. Bake uncovered at 375 degrees for 1 hour. Let stand 10 minutes before serving. The reason you want to let it stand 10, 15 minutes is so that whatever juice is in there, whatever liquid's in there, will be absorbed by those noodles. That also helps to soften them. But they will be soft after they've baked for an hour in this sauce. And thawing them, and especially thawing them in that sauce, will also help soften them. So, into the freezer it goes. Tomorrow morning we'll cover it. Now, I guess I should tell you that we will not finish this video until we get to Florida. Melissa and I are snowbirds. We always go to Florida in the middle of January, and we stay for 6 weeks. It's expensive to eat out if you're somewhere for 6 weeks, especially if you eat out every day. That gets really expensive. So I fix freezer meals for us to take with us, and we just stick them in our cooler. They stay frozen until we get there. And then when we want a meal, we just take it out the day before, let it thaw completely, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then bake it the next day. So even though we're starting this video here and you see us making it here, at the end of this video, you'll actually see us in the rental house in Florida. So we will see you in a few weeks when this is baked and ready to serve. See you soon. As you've seen already in this video, we started this manicotti in Kentucky about 6 or 7 weeks ago. It's been frozen since then, And now we're in Florida and we're having manicotti for dinner tonight. So I just took it out of the freezer yesterday and let it sit out until it was almost completely thawed. Today I baked it at 350 degrees for 1 hour. And it's almost time for us to take it out. Now I have also put bread in with it, and we've made a salad to go with our meal tonight. So let's get our manicotti. And hope I don't burn myself. Timer off. Okay, here's our manicotti. It looks ready. Can you see that, Melissa?
Looks really good. Smells really good.
Now, to serve our manicotti, I have made a pot of spaghetti. I just used angel hair pasta. That's our favorite kind of pasta. And I stirred in a jar of Raoul's homemade tomato basil sauce. So to serve it, we will just put some spaghetti on the plate. Clean that edge up right there. We will cut through our, let me see which way this is laying. Yeah, it's this way. Okay, so we'll just cut through this. Of course, the cheese melts and kind of becomes one solid mass. Ooh, that's hot. Okay, I don't know any other way to do it except just cut it. And grab a spatula, if I can find one. It is really hard to cook in a house that you're not used to. Get this back out of the way. Take our manicotti and place right on top of our pasta. And there's our manicotti.
That looks really good.
It smells delicious.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Take a bite.
All right. Let me grab a fork. I'm afraid this might burn me up. You want a bite?
I'll wait. Have my salad with it too.
And bread.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a good meal.
I know this is going to be hot. That is so good. And it is so nice to have a meal like this already in the freezer and ready to bake. We really do appreciate that you watch our videos. Don't forget that Melissa always puts the written recipe right below the video in the description box. If you'll go down there and click on the title of the video, it will expand the box and you'll find the written recipe so you don't have to take notes during the video. Also, if you would, we would appreciate it if you would click the thumbs up over on this side just to say you liked our video. And if you haven't, click the subscribe box and the notification bell beside of it. Thanks again for watching our videos. And remember, you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Have a great day.